What happens when an atheist dies? That's a good question, and while most of us are left playing a guessing game, Bryan Melvin can speak from experience. He came back to life after dying of cholera in 1980, and he explained everything that happened to him.
It comes on rather quickly, but when I first drank it, it was quitting time, so I went home and I thought if I could just drink some Jose Cuervo, Jack Daniels, and maybe some Wild Turkey, some liquor, it would just, be the John Wayne cure, and alcohol will cure anything. It didn't. It made it worse. So it was about almost 12 hours later, I was back at the early morning job site. We were doing trim work inside of a model home, and the first wave of symptoms hit. And basically how cholera works, it lasts about 7 days usually. And in the third or fourth day, it could go a little longer, but in the third or fourth day, your symptoms will go in remission and you'll feel great. And you can read about settlers who got cholera coming out west or even overseas. You feel great, you get up and you walk away, and next thing you know, you collapse and you die. And that's what happens to you when you have cholera. That's pretty much what happened to me. So I got very sick at the home, the model home I was at, and made a mess there, and I couldn't do anything. So I took off work early, sicker than sick, and got home. And the next day I was in terrible shape. Meanwhile, my two friends were made arrangements with one of their relatives, to go to Phoenix to fly in a small plane to go up over to the Grand Canyon, gas up. We can fly. Actually, at that time, you can dive into the Grand Canyon and stuff in small aircraft. That's all outlawed now. But anyway, that's what we were planning to do. We're going to have a great all weekend on this. But I told them, you guys go ahead, don't mind me, I'll be okay. I can tough it out. And they kept shaking their head. They wanted to take me to the hospital. I refused. And then the part where you go into remission and you feel great. You don't have any symptoms. I got up out of the bed and drank some water, told them to go. I said, I'm all better now. You can see it. They shook their head. They agreed and they drove away, but I had a neighbor next door to me, and the other duplex would come over and check on me. So they had all that arranged, which at the time I don't remember it, but they did because he found me. And so what I'm about to reveal to you may be unbelievable, and you may disagree with me wholeheartedly, and I certainly do not mind. But I will just tell you exactly what happened, how an atheist died. And so I was on my bed. I had one last attack, and then they drove away. I fell on the kitchen floor watching them drive away. It took me a long time to crawl into the bathroom. And the symptoms I had was like razor blades in your gut, like something wants to, it's like the movie Alien wants to pop out of your belly. That's the only best I can describe. It's like razor blades sloshing around your entire stomach and all throughout your entire intestine. Then it would build up and you vomit and you'd have diarrhea at the same time. My diarrhea was like you take rice and you rinse the water off, and it has this milky color to it with a little touch of brown and a little bit of blood in it from the dysentery, which I didn't know I had. And at the time, until I was diagnosed. So I was going out both ends. And so I collapsed on the bathroom floor, and I woke up with my head against the door. I had a German Shepherd. My dog was scratching on the door. I managed to open it, cleaned up everything, had Pine Sol and stuff. I cleaned all the toilets. That's what I did. I just did all this myself. Don't know how I did it, but I did it. I didn't want anybody else to get sick. And so we cleaned all this stuff, and I crawled back out, and maybe just a few feet from the bathroom is maybe 6-7 feet into the other bedroom where my bedroom was. And I pulled myself up on the bed and got in there. I was in excruciating pain. I had a high fever. Put all the blankets and sleeping bags on top of me because I had the chills so bad. My teeth were rattling. And my dog was very concerned, whimpering and barking, and very distressed. And I couldn't tell my dog to, Lassie, go get help. I could hardly talk. And then I remember seeing my dog whimpering, sitting on her haunches, looking at me. So I reached out my hand to pet her chin. And I took my last breath, and I saw my hand come out of my hand. My hand was this way. Then I saw my hand come out, went through her chin. And my dog didn't notice. And I just Took my last breath, and it was an amazing thing. Everything got clear. I'm nearsighted. I could see across the room. I could hear perfectly. All of a sudden, I became more alive than I am right now, than you are right now. Anyone watching this, listening to me, I was more alive than anybody in the world. I actually was like awakening into a new reality. This is an ultimate reality. And I was more alive than I am now. The sense of being alive was so strong. I wasn't dead. I wasn't a dead hunk of meat. So I lost my atheism when I took my last breath. I floated above my body. At the time, this is 1980 when this happened. Near-death experiences were not heard. Very few people ever heard of them. I never heard of them. And I wouldn't have believed them at the time if someone told me. And so I had no preconceived notions, I had no knowledge of these whatsoever, and I died as an atheist. So I took my last breath, and I was floating above my body against the ceiling, and the ceiling is a swirled texture. And so I turned my body away from my dog and noticed I was looking intently at a fingerprint inside one of the folds of texture. After I came back to life, I got on a ladder, looked at the very same spot. You have to put your head press it against real hard against the drywall, looking right at the right spot to see this fold of this fingerprint that's in there. Exactly what I saw. And then I turned and saw that fingerprint, looked around at my dog. I could see what I looked like. I didn't look too good. How did I say it? It was a very kind of a weird palish gray with blue as blotches in my skin. I was totally dehydrated. If you could pinch my skin, it would not come back. That's what cholera does. That's what you die of. Right after you have that relapse phase is when people die. And so my experience is consistent with the common what people go through a bad case of cholera. And most people don't survive it. And plus what else I drank, that neurotoxin from that, I call it reddish brown algae. And all those things I drank from parasites. The dysentery, all thrown in. And so I took my last breath. I was floating above my body. I looked at that, and I go, all I could see was my hand in my face. And that's what I saw. I said, man, I look horrible. And it's a shock to see your own body with your own eyes. Everything's clear, and you're more alive than you are now. And you knew you're dead. So I was no longer an atheist. I said, this is cool. There's no more pain. I have no fever.